Hello, boys and girls. We're going to do history now. We're in chapter 22 of our history book, right here. So chapter 22, page 107. Let's read this page together, and then we're going to do the worksheet number 15. Local self-government. Many new settlements began in America during the 1600s. Puritans, Quakers, Presbyterians, Baptists, Episcopalians, and others arrived. Those are all names of different styles of Christian religion, Christian churches. Each came to enjoy the religious and civil liberty in the new land. Most of the colonists came from England, but there were colonists from many countries. The bands of settlers brought their own manners and customs. They built their churches, each with its own form of worship and church government. Do you remember, I believe it was last year, we read about the Dutch settlement where they decorated their houses with black and yellow tiles like a checkerboard, and they had all the little rows of flowers in the front yard, and they dressed in their Dutch way of dressing. And those people, I believe, were settling in Pennsylvania. So there were a lot of different types of people that came over, but many of them came from England. Starting up again, reading. 13 separate colonies were established. They were totally separate, like separate little countries. They didn't fight each other, but they each had their own money, they had their own laws, everything was separate. So 13 separate colonies were established. The northern colonies were founded as self-governing colonies. The southern colonies were royal provinces. The middle colonies had a variety of governments. In the teacher's book, it says they were proprietary, which means that they were given, one person or a small group of people was given authority by the king to rule in that colony. Starting at the very bottom, Pennsylvania began under the ownership of one man. How could the 13 separate colonies come together as one nation, since their ideas of government were so different? God had a plan to use the little Plymouth colony as a seed for the entire nation. When the Pilgrims settled in New England, they brought with them the ideas of self-government, which had been practiced in their local church congregations and were the basis of the Mayflower Compact. Their ideas of self-government were first shared with their neighbors, the Massachusetts Bay Colony. The biblical principle of self-government spread throughout the colonies and became the foundation of a self-governing nation. Now I'm going to read from the teacher's book a little bit of information on what's called the New England Township. It was a form of government in the New England colonies, the northern colonies. Actually, I won't read it, I'll just tell you about it. They would form a group of people who all lived close enough to be able to drive in to where the town hall was. And they would have their farms all around there. The church would be there, and their meeting place would be there. And all those people were part of the township. And they made their own laws and their own rules and had their own leaders within each of the townships. So it was, everybody came and decided and voted. Not just like we do now, where we would elect a representative to go to Sacramento or go to Washington, D.C. These were close enough where everybody could travel an hour or less, I would guess, maybe a couple of hours, I don't know, to the center of the township where the meeting place was. Now let's work on this page, Self-Governing Colonies, history number 15. Let's begin at the top. Answer the questions using complete sentences. I shouldn't have to say that, but I keep saying it to remind you. Your answers need to be in complete sentences, not just yes or because they couldn't go there or something like that. You need to have full sentences. So the question is, When the 13 original colonies were established, each colony was individual and separate. They each governed themselves. How is that different from our nation today? Is the nation made up of 50 separate states? So the nation does have 50 states, and the states do get to make some of their own laws. For example, each state gets to say how old you are when you get your driver's license. I looked it up, and the younger states, there's a few of them where you can have your license when you're 15. Most of them are 16, a few of them are 17. Some of the places that have a lot of big cities where the driving is really crazy, they've decided that 16-year-olds can't handle the traffic of some of the eastern states. So they've moved their driving age up to 17. But all these states are united as a nation under the US Constitution, which does a lot of things. It makes laws about treaties, agreements with other countries. It makes laws about business between different states. They make money for the whole country, whereas it used to be each state had their own money, or they used their country's money that they came from, like Holland or England or wherever they came from. Our national government under the Constitution provides for the common defense of the whole country. We don't have the Army of California and the Army of Nevada and the Army of Oregon. We have the United States Army to defend us. So I'm going to write on the board what you can put as an answer to this first question. All right, so you can write this as your answer for the first question. Each state makes some of its own laws, but all the states are united under the US Constitution. So if you need time to write that down, you may pause the video. Let's put in parentheses some of the things that it does, like money, army, trade, that means business, buying and selling, treaties, that means agreements. Put those down there as some of the things that the US government under the Constitution directs for all of the states. All right, let's go on to the next question. The northern colonies were self-governed. What does that mean? It means the people chose their leaders and made the laws that governed themselves. No outside government had a say in the running of their colony. I'll write that down for you on the board. All right, so that's the next one. The people made their own laws and chose their own leaders. We're going to talk some more in the next lesson about how that was done, but we already talked about the township and how people from that immediate area came together to make decisions. Pause the video if you need to write that down. Where do they learn about self-government? So we just talked about this a few lessons ago when we talked about Thomas Hooker, the pastor who preached the sermon about people governing themselves. So where did they learn it from? From the Bible and from their pastors who studied the Word of God. So you can put your own version of that on the paper right there. Where did they learn about self-government? They learned it from the Bible and from their pastors who preached about God's ways of government. Next question. The southern colonies and middle colonies had different forms of government than the northern colonies. What kinds of government did they have and how did they work? So this is partly from your book and partly from what I have in my book, teacher's book. The southern colonies were royal provinces. So you're just going to just finish the sentence. Royal provinces. So that's the one place where you don't have to make a complete sentence. Just finish the sentence out. The southern colonies were, it says, and you put royal provinces. And then the way that works is the King of England sent a governor to rule each colony. The King of England sent a governor to rule each colony. You're going to write that down. You are going to write that down. All right. The middle colonies, the book says, were governed in various ways. So they weren't all exactly the same. So you can put that, governed in various ways. So here's the middle colonies were governed in various ways. Governed in various ways. And then my teacher's book says that many of them were what is called proprietary, which I talked about a few minutes ago. So this is where the king gave the right to govern a place to a person or a group of people. Proprietary, let's see. Hold on just a minute, I'm going to pause the video while I write this down. Okay, so here's the middle colonies. So I took the period out right here. They were governed in various ways, including proprietary. Let me put that in quotes. That's the name of what it's called. That means that the king gave the right to govern a colony to a person or group of people. Pennsylvania was ruled by one man. His name was William Penn, and he named Pennsylvania after himself. Kind of crazy. And he decided how the government should be set up in his colony. Pennsylvania is not a small state. Interesting that he was given authority over that whole colony. So you can write that down. We're going to go on to the next question. Why were the southern and middle colonies different from the northern colonies? So the southern colonies began with Virginia, with Jamestown, where the king gave authority to a governor to govern that colony. So because the southern colonies began with Virginia, that style influenced the rest of the colonies in the South. But the people in the northern colonies began at Plymouth with self-government as they had learned from the Bible, and they influenced the other colonies in their area in the north. Eventually, they influenced the entire 13 colonies, which became the United States. So let's write something down here. You could put something like the southern colonies began in Virginia under a charter from the king, and that idea spread to the other colonies. You can write it down. If you need to replay me and write it down, you can do that. The people of the northern colonies began at Plymouth as self-governed people, and that idea spread to the other northern colonies. The ones in the middle, oh, what happened to them? No, I'm kidding. So they were various stories. We won't go into all the details of all their stories, but each was influenced by the people who came and first settled there. All right, so now you're going to do a map that shows where those colonies are. This is the map. It's in your packet. First thing we're going to do is put a title at the top. 13 independent colonies. 13 independent colonies. That's the title at the top of your map. So write that down. And then this is how you're going to do the map. You're going to do caterpillar hairs around each section. So this is the red is the northern colonies, the green is the middle colonies, and the blue is the southern colonies. Normally we don't use blue except for water, but this map has the water in gray, so we don't have to do the water. These are the Great Lakes, This is the Atlantic Ocean. And then we're going to label each of the states that are within those areas. Now, the interesting thing is that Massachusetts has 2 different places that they govern. Let me get my pencil so I can point. I'll be right back. Hey, I'm back. All right, so Massachusetts governs both this right here, this little state, and this big area up here. So you can see I have an arrow pointing from the word Massachusetts to both of those. So I will also send out a still photo of this whole map, but there you see it. You can pause the video. Also, you're going to make a key over here. See where I'm pointing? It's going to say key. And then you're going to make 3 boxes, label them northern, middle, and southern colonies, and you can either fill them in or caterpillar hair the inside of the box. I think it looks nice to caterpillar hair the inside of the box. So again, northern, middle, southern. We don't have to label them with the perfect printing like we do on map work, but it would be good to label them so that you know where they are. And you might also write Atlantic Ocean out here. We all know where this is, but that helps us be sure we know where this is. So that's for your history for this week. Bye.